we have the pleasure of welcoming Hafsa Burt and John Eckmann to the stage. While they make their way up, I will tell you a little background about them. John has 36 years experience in property management and engineering. He has managed a variety of properties, including high-rise commercial, retail, computer centers, hospital, healthcare, and high-tech manufacturing. John is active in several professional organizations, including Building Owners and Managers Association, Association of Energy Engineers, National Fire Protection Association, and Refrigeration Service Engineers Society. And Hafsa Burt started her studio after working for architecture and design firms like Frank Gehry and Associates and SOM. As an environmentalist, she has also adopted and actively advocates the 2030 Challenge and is a huge proponent of holistic high-performance buildings. Her focus includes eliminating toxins with indoor air quality as a specialty. And she serves on the Council of Experts at USGBC's California chapter on indoor air quality, and also as a liaison for the Green Schools Committee for USGBC. She also serves as the chair of the Building Owners and Managers Association East Chapter Codes and Standards Committee. Welcome, Hafsa and John.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us. We are here representing BOMA, Building Owners and Management Association, and we're really excited to be partnering with BayREN. You know, a little about BOMA, if you don't know, you know, they are an industry group for commercial buildings. They're involved in advocacy, standards, education, and recognition. Those of you who need to do outreach to you know, commercial building owners, BOMA is a great avenue to do that. You can get a lot of decision makers into a room to talk to. So Hafsa and I are just going to split this up. I'm going to talk about the challenges in energy efficiency. Hafsa is going to talk about the opportunities. As you may know, that commercial buildings account for about 19% of the energy used in the United States. A huge portion of that. Half of that energy is used by commercial buildings, and it goes towards air conditioning and lighting. Opportunities for commercial buildings include improving operations and maintenance of existing buildings, and finding ways to deal with the split incentives that often occur between the owners and the tenants. And additionally, capital is can be difficult to come by. So, you know, the code upgrades, specifically Title 24 here in California, have been sort of a mixed blessing to the operators. It has forced, you know, many commercial projects to do some upgrades, but it also has sort of disinclined some owners to do that. In an era of spiraling rents out there, improvements to commercial space are often passed on to the tenants. So for the last couple of years, as rents have increased, I've been seeing you know, tenants opt to take space as is to avoid the costly upgrades, despite the energy returns that you get from that. And it's just a business decision that's rather surprising. And also the nature of property financing. You know, you might be surprised to know that in commercial buildings, probably the average hold is probably about 3 years, sometimes less. Even the institutional owners tend to flip buildings. So that means you have to come together with a project that's going to have a payback within that hold period. It can really sort of constrain you from doing larger projects. And also, the code necessary upgrades can sit there and expand the scope of your project to take it beyond that whole period, with a longer payback, which the owners just aren't interested in investing in. Commercial property's been doing energy upgrades for decades now. There was an interesting statement about building this building for the future. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen several generations of energy upgrades. It seems like you're never done before the new technology comes out, and there's opportunities, new opportunities, which is a good thing. Certainly keeps people like me in business. But being that we have been doing those upgrades for decades, also finding the low-hanging fruit's gone. We are struggling to find more complex and expensive projects, and then to find funding for them. But codes are driving technology and the installation of that technology. But they also need to be, operated and managed correctly. And I don't think there is a code solution to that. It should be financially driven. There was also a comment about, retro commissioning. I'm a huge proponent of actually ongoing commissioning, which is a continuous checking. I've been through several retro commissionings, and I do ongoing commissioning on all my projects now. But you need to stay on top of all these systems, make sure they are operating. I look at commissioning as more, it's making sure that design intent is maintained and is not drifted, that operators aren't taking the easy way out and disabling control systems, to maybe solve a short-term problem, and then leaving it that way without addressing the core problem. And also with that, there's a strong commitment within the commercial buildings to do benchmarking. I know that we use Energy Star. It is a pretty much a universal platform for our industry. All the major commercial real estate companies use it. BOMA promotes it. Actually, to be a member of BOMA, you need to be downloading or giving access to your download to BOMA so they can track that. It's a simple program to use. It gives you a good overview, and also it's good for recognition. So, in those, when you're proposing to new tenants, a good Energy Star score really shows a well-run building, and lower operating costs, lower rents. So, with the new codes, the things I'm most excited about and see greatest potential is direct digital control down at the zone level. There are opportunities for 20 to 30% improvements in operating costs for that, and it gives you also a much better environment. I manage a LEED Platinum building, and being able to review, deep down into the operating systems of that is a great benefit, and keeps people happy, gives them more flexibility in operating their space, and keeps my costs pretty well contained. And that goes back to, remember that 19% of that energy, if we could expand that, that would be great. Lighting is sort of, a mixed bag. LEDs are great, they're expensive. That's often the the challenge in new tenant improvements, having that capital cost put into an amortized lease can be a little bit daunting. And also the the lighting controls. I think the Title 24 is evolving. It's evolving in a good way. It's getting a lot of feedback, and it's actually taking that feedback and put it into legislation. So I thank you for that. We were, there's people like me in all the big high-rise buildings. They're a smart bunch of guys. They're dedicated to running their buildings in the most comfortable and optimum way. We are certainly open to potentials for education and outreach. So I wanted to talk too about a little about the Department of Energy program. There's exciting things going on out there through the grants that Department of Energy puts out there. These are funding opportunities for projects that cannot be funded by, or will not be funded by, commercial interests because they don't know whether they're going to work. So the government does provide money. This is, the Bay Area is certainly very active in that. The DOE is funding about 53 projects just in the Bay Area right now. A couple that I've been, looking at are open buildings controls. And these are simulation and specification of building control sequences. DOE has funded that at $2 million. And these study shows that properly designed and implemented and maintained HVAC strategy can reduce commercial building energy by 30%. And that control optimization, and that goes back to continuous commissioning, can reduce consumption an additional 10 to 15%. So another one is, it actually goes to our problems with financing. There's a study with Marina Studios about energy factors in commercial building finance, and they're investigating how to overcome barriers to financing and energy efficiency projects, which includes identifying scalable energy-related factors in commercial mortgages and related financing instruments, analyzing residential property assessed clean energy activity to determine the performance of mortgages and properties with and without assessments, and reporting on the best practices for appraising green commercial property. So, and finally, another one I'm finding pretty fascinating is virtual sensing. And one of the large costs of direct digital control is, they used to be wired systems, and now we're doing things wireless, infrared, and also with just data management. Because there's a tremendous amount of data that's available when you wire up and connect all your sensors together. And so these approach monitoring building performance and operations, and then adjusting your control sequences and things on the fly. And I've done some of this in my automation systems, and it's pretty amazing the improvements you're getting. We're delaying system starts by hours, and several hours a week. We are actually shutting things down to let the building sort of toast down, to the downtime. We're running fans, our static pressures, which is the push of air through the buildings at a much lower level, because it can see this program can see what the building actually needs and what it'll withstand to keep those operating parameters in the sweet spot. And being an old mechanic and sort of, it's been sort of a challenge coming up and looking at my control systems and going, this can't be working, but you know, it is. You know, I'm not having complaints. People are satisfied. It gives me good hope just to spend my old beliefs. So that's about it for my challenges. If I can answer any questions. Do any questions?
Yeah, not really a question, comment. I think we had the BOMA program. I work in the water partnership. I actually go out for auditors, small businesses, and more meetings around the project with owners that are still there and being. They also have their out there and
Yeah, this is about the outreach to commercial owners out there, and there is a resistance. Capital is hard to come by. It's off the top. A lot of times capital can't be amortized into a lease. So unless you have the right project and can fashion that, and you were increasing that asset value for a flip, it can be a hard sell. Any other questions? I saw more hands. In the back. Well, the direct digital controls can look at the whole building all at once. It can identify space temperatures and conditions out there in advance of the program start time. Say I'm running my building from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and I need to have my building at set point at 8 a.m. So it's looking at all these conditions out there, and it's saying, gee, I need to start up at this rate. I may have high demand areas. I may start up very slowly to get those things on the track to get to set point. And then the other ones will come on, later. So it's just, but,
Adura is one. You can look up Adura, it's in Berkeley. They're local and they've done a lot of projects here. Yeah, good example. It's ADURA.
Maybe the building is quite up to date. And I realize it's kind of longer than the thing, but do you see yourself with the Oakland in the short run where you're at, or is it incremental, or is it wait for the next level technology?
Well, I'm lucky enough to operate a LEED Platinum building. We were always, we're there and we're adding to it, and we're, but we're also looking at ways to, decrease the cost of those new technologies. We're also, trying to do, the smart things for the owners to make sure that we're spending dollars wisely.
John did a great job in outlining challenges that the commercial building sector is facing. And I think it was touched upon that the residential sector, California has very ambitious goals for the residential sector to be completely net zero energy by 2020, and then the commercial sector to be completely net zero energy by 2030. And Title 24 Energy Update, which was released in 2016. The 2016 update is targeting those ambitious performance goals. We are here specifically representing BOMA, which is Building Owners Managers Association, and they deal with the existing building stock. So for our sake, I think the California Existing Building Energy Efficiency Action Plan, which was finalized in 2015, and it spans over 10 years, is more relevant. And they have identified great opportunities for the existing building stock. They have also identified 600,000 commercial buildings. So as you can tell, there's a great opportunity to actually change, the things that have been handled so far. So this plan has identified opportunities in the existing commercial building stock trigger when a new lease is signed, when building ownership changes, when management agreement is renewed, or a lease is renewed, or a space is redesigned for renovation or tenant improvement. There's, as you can see, there's great opportunity, but the myth amongst the building owners is that high performance features or high performance buildings just cost more. So this energy action plan has identified $1.4 billion in public funding, which is available, that can be leveraged with capital, with private capital. As BOMA members and chairs of a committee, our job is to do marketing outreach and education for our membership, especially on the building ownership sites, just so they can see the value in it. So one of the other things that has been identified with this action plan is an incentive to include in lease negotiations and appraisals, which rely on property evaluations and property conditions assessments, a line item for energy efficiency of an asset. So building ownership and tenants can see it as a tangible benefit, which will change things significantly. I've been practicing for 18 years, and I've been pushing, healthy building initiative and energy efficiency agenda, for years. But in the private sector, it all boils down to the economics, and they just need to understand how the numbers work. We can be, very optimistic and very ambitious, or very idealistic in our goals, but in the real estate development world and ownership world, it's all just about the numbers. So as much as we can educate with forums like this, inviting people over, and the BOMA's outreach program, helps. On touching on energy efficiency, McKinsey, I'm sure you guys are familiar with McKinsey Global Institute. They published a study, I think it was around 2013 or maybe 2012, where they suggested that if $21.6 billion was invested in nuclear power, which is touted as clean energy versus energy efficiency measures, we will reduce 87.6 million metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions with the latter, which is energy efficiency, versus only 23 million metric tons with nuclear power. So studies like this, and just spreading the word, is really phenomenal. In the skyscraper world that John was talking about, Empire State Building is a great example. They put all that HVAC money into the building envelope with window upgrades and radiator barrier insulation and lighting upgrades, and were able to save $4.4 million in annual operations and energy costs, versus Bank of America, which was on One Bryant Park in New York City. I don't know how many are familiar with that project, but it was touted as the greenest skyscraper because of its LEED platinum status. But a year later, after post-occupancy, New York City released data that showed that it was actually using twice as much energy as the 80-year-old or 80-year-older Empire State Building, or any building or any skyscraper, of a comparable size. And the reason being that the end user was just not taken into account. And they had these large trading floors with 5 computers attached, 5 monitors attached to each desktop, lighting 24 hours, pet peeve. And plug loads, which was just not taken into account. So it's a lot of data that needs to be shown post-occupancy, not just in the design stage, and to support what we're doing. And I think that's about it. So in terms of the existing building stock, I think before we can even start looking at renewables, we need to start looking at energy conservation, because you can upgrade a space. I mean, I deal with tenants all the time. You can upgrade the space with efficient lighting, but if it's on 24 hours, it basically defeats the purpose. So as much as we're instituting energy efficiency, programs, we should also talk about conservation and beyond renewables. And then the second step would be getting into renewables and on-site storage. And I know at BayREN, all they're like, yeah.